Hello, everyone. Welcome to Off the Charts, episode 322. And you know what time it is? You see the panel here. Who do I have with me here? How about we go? I keep forgetting the key. He'll probably be here by that time. From New Zealand with the headsets. How's it going?
Hey everybody,
What's your name?
going well?
Oh, this
Mr.
is
Attack
starting
from
off
Down
well.
Under.
What's that?
Mr. Attack from Down Under.
Hey, there you go. And the other
Keith,
New Zealander right below me here.
Yeah, this is Steve from Rock and Metal Invasion.
All right. And I'm going to try this way, I bet you. There you go. From NOLA.
This is Kevin from Sonic Boom TV.
There you go. How's it going, guys?
Good.
Good.
Excellent. All right. So today we will be doing our top 3 musical disappointments. Could be a band that disappointed us, could be an album release that disappointed us, could be a song, but it has to do music related, obviously. The catch is we should have lived through it. So to give you an example, let's say you were disappointed that the Beatles split up. Okay. Well, I can't use that because I didn't live through it. I heard about it. So stuff like that. So you have to have lived through this musical disappointment. So if we are ready, shall we go ahead? All right. So Mr. Keith from New Zealand, why don't you start us off this time, if you want?
I can start. No problem. Unlike the previous shows we've done, and I usually show things, my disappointments music-wise, I usually, get rid of them. So I probably won't have as much to show, but I'm going to talk about like ancient history going back, and these are things that it still irk me a little bit. So this was a band that I loved for years and years, just absolutely adored. And then for me, they took a bit of a nosedive before I could start enjoying them again. And that was Van Halen.
Oh, okay.
So I knew that David Lee Roth was leaving and Sammy Hagar was replacing him in 1985. I only knew that because I used to listen to all the American top 40 radio stations in New Zealand, and so that was not a big shock or anything like that. And the blow was sort of cushioned because I heard that Summer Nights and Dreams they played that, and I thought this is going to be great. This is going to be great. So that all those popular albums I loved, but then this is what sort of made me take a bit of a dive with them. They put out that live album, Live Right Here, Right Now. Just because I was like a fan, I had to have that. I was going to get it. And it was in my. I've got to get that. So CDs, just single CDs, were expensive. This was like a double CD, and cost-wise back then, it probably would cost me about a week's wages back then. And then so I saved and I got it, and just with my ears, it just sounded terrible. I don't know if they compressed. I heard later that they compressed a lot of the sound, and it just hurt my ears to listen to it. And I'm not sure what they did with it, but it might be a bit like I heard that they might have done a Kiss Alive, and Sammy came back. A lot of his vocals were not good enough, and he put other vocals on it and things like that. But to my ears and listening to it, the songs just didn't sound very good. There's a bass solo on here. It's like, why, and so just I paid all that money, and it just turned me off a little bit. Of course, this came out in 1995, and then of course I love that. And however, when old Sammy left the band in 1996 and was replaced by Gary Sharon from Extreme, and they put out that Van Halen 3. That was it. I'm out. What are you guys doing? You know, and I didn't even listen to A Different Kind of Truth even later when it came out, because I was pretty much done with them. But you know, that's actually quite a good album. I listen to it now, and I'd like to see a reissue of that. And anyway, finally, just a tip for bands, any bands in general: never put out a greatest hits collection and call it Best of Volume 1, because it just totally curses the band. You know, there's going to never be a Volume 2 or something like that, and you know, just bad. And so I'm still looking for a good Van Halen live album, and I'm hoping that they'll re-release that Live Without a Net live album, because I love that, and I used to watch that. Used to hire that VHS from the video shop over and over again. So that's my first pick.
Cool. I have that on DVD. The well, both of them actually. The Right Here, Right Now live and Live Without a Net on DVD. Right Here, Right Now does sound very trebly. I find there's very to the ears. It's not the best sounding one. I know from Sammy's book, he said that they went and redid the instruments, but he says he only did one take of his redoing vocals, because he goes, that's what live is about, whether it sounds good or not. So he wasn't for that there. But and for your back then it was supposed to be called Mach 3, but your Van Halen 3, I wasn't disappointed by that one, because I secretly wanted it to fail, because I was so upset about Sammy leaving. So, all right, good pick.
Yeah, if you read the book, you find out the reasons. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, I have his book. I got actually the new one too by Tim Derling there. So, all right, Van Halen. All right.
Hey, I'm guessing you didn't pick up the Live Right Here, Right Now when it got reissued on vinyl or issued on vinyl.
I couldn't bring myself to do it, because if I was disappointed again, I'd be crushed. I know that they went back and they got a really good engineer in to redo it, so I'll have to listen to it. I've listened to bits of it, and it doesn't sound as bad as what I remember from that CD.
It's
but
three
I was quite
vinyls,
tempted,
right?
but it's quite pricey.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's quite pricey.
It's quite pricey too. Yeah, exactly. That's why I haven't bought it
$100
as well.
here.
Yeah.
I was like, now I saw it.
Yeah.
I was there for Record Store Day, and I saw it. I'm like, I'm not getting that.
Same thing.
Yeah.
I
I
had
don't
the
buy live
CD.
albums anyway.
I've got the CD too. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't even think I have the CD anymore. I have the DVD of it. So, and there's one extra song on the DVD. So that
Okay.
it's not. What's that?
They've just released Van Halen live during the
Dallas?
FUCK. Yeah, I don't know where it is, but I haven't got it. But I don't know what that one sounds like.
It's the free show that they did in the streets of Dallas, I think there.
Right. Yeah.
So, all
The
right.
thing with the live albums is I don't tend to play them that much, eh?
That's the thing. I don't.
Yeah.
Unless I just have the one album from that one band, I don't buy live albums anymore. So,
Yeah, they're pretty hit and miss.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Kevin, why don't you go ahead with yours?
So, okay, so mine, I kind of just chose bands that put out an album that really disappointed me, and then they never recovered from that, at least in my mind. So the first one, I don't have the CD anymore. I don't know where it is. It seems like someone stole some of my CDs by this band. So I don't know if you guys can see.
Oh my God, yeah.
But Motley Crue's self-titled album, the one when they brought in John Corabi to replace Vince Neil, everything Motley Crue did up until that point seemed like it was building on itself, getting better and better and better. And then they released Dr. Feelgood, and it was like the biggest thing, going. And then whatever reason, they survived all their drugs and partying and car accidents and everything else. And then somehow Vince Neil's out of the band, and they put this thing out. And it's not Motley Crue at all to me. Like, I can't even really listen to it because it sounds like a completely different band. They tried to dabble into like some of the grunge and alternative rock stuff, and it just didn't work for me. And surprisingly, I've been seeing a lot of videos lately where where people are saying that this is their favorite Motley Crue album, and I don't get it. I mean, did they not listen to Motley Crue before that? I don't know. So, but ever since that came out, they haven't put anything out that even comes close to the older Motley Crue, especially that recent release for that single or EP or whatever it is for that new song with John 5.
Canceled.
That's terrible. But so I don't know. The closest thing they've ever done since then, I think, is the Saints of Los Angeles album. But even that one wasn't that great. So they were top of the world, and then they just fell for me completely. So that's my first one.
Okay. I get what you're saying, but to me, that album actually aged very, very well. To me. But that.
Well, you're wrong. No.
That?
I said, well, you're wrong. No.
It's just, I'm just sick and tired of hearing those first 5 albums. They're like,
well, yeah, I mean,
Dr. Feelgood right now is like, it needs to be put away for me. Like,
well, yeah, that one was. I mean, how many singles did they have on that? Probably 7 or 8? 5?
5 for sure. Start my heart without you, same situation. Yeah, 5.
Well, at least 5. But yeah, that was a big thing. I mean,
but I remember when it came out, I did not like it at first. I was like, what is this? But then somebody made me realize that Motley Crue never makes the same album twice. The first one's punk, the second one's borderline metal, the third one's glam, the fourth one is blues, and the fifth one is hair metal.
Yeah.
The one was grunge. It's whatever, to each his own. I feel it actually aged pretty well. A lot better, yeah. But you're allowed, Kevin.
I can understand you'd be disappointed though if you brought it and you were wanting Dr. Feelgood Part 2. It's not that at all.
Oh yeah, it's completely.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But again, going from girls to Dr. Feelgood is not also this. The difference is not as dramatic as when they came out with that self-titled one.
Right.
The album they had was just like when you go from Shout to Theater of Pain. That's also a very big difference there. So anyway, that's my opinion. So all right, Mr. Steve, what do you got?
All right. So my first disappointment is not the death of hair metal, but just the fact that hair metal was now. Or not. So when I say not the death, I mean that is my disappointment, the death of hair metal, but not so much that it got replaced by other bands, but just that it couldn't exist at all. Do you know what I mean? So like I was quite happy for some of these other bands with some new sounds to come in. I thought as I think you talked about, Dan, on one of your recent episodes where you sort of talked about, the hair metal scene was there were just too many bands. It was just getting overrun with all these bands coming out, all looked the same, sounded the same. So I think it was great that there was some other bands coming through that still fit the hard rock metal genre to some degree, at least that they're hard rock at least, or relatively heavy, but they've got some melody, they could get played on the radio, that sort of thing, but they didn't have any of the hair metal cliches, and so I think that was good. But what was bad is that it was just like all these bands that were associated with hair metal weren't played on MTV anymore, they weren't played on radio, they were just completely dismissed. And so that was just really disappointing for me that the music that I enjoyed was now just not supported at all anymore. And there were still a few bands, who tried to sort of survive and keep going. But when music TV is not going to play you and radio is not going to play you, it's pretty hard. And also then the magazines are also kind of dismissive of you. And I think eventually people thought, that's just not cool anymore. So, so a lot of those bands just had to call it quits, or they didn't call it quits. They had to actually change their sound to fit into the times, So it was interesting. Keith, I saw your latest video and you showed the Trip compilation.
I love that.
And Oh, it's something that people probably only in New Zealand would know about, but it's a compilation album. It's called The Trip, and they go all the way up to like
Is that
there's
that
the
little
Trip.
cassette that you had there, Keith?
Yeah, that's
okay.
it. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I've got about
yeah,
8 or 9 of them.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, so there's a trip one, trip two, and it's I think I don't know how long it went for, into the early 2000s anyway, but the first one came out in 1993. And basically, it's a compilation of all the sort of popular heavy rock bands, at the time. This is 1993, and there's no Van Halen, there's no Motley Crue, there's no Skid Row, there's no Guns N' Roses, there's none of those kind of bands. But this is only 1993. They're just forgotten about, right? 1993. If you go look down at the playlist, it's Soundgarden, it's Rage Against the Machine, it's Red Hot Chili Peppers, Stone Temple Pilots, Ministry, Roland's band. So good bands. I like a lot of those bands, but it's not. There's just nothing that has any link to hair metal at all. So yeah,
all
that's my
right.
disappointment.
Well, I'm actually going to piggyback on yours first.
Yeah.
And the year was 1993. You may actually see where I'm going with this. So I'm going to come up with this here, okay? I remember going to work, and I read Metal Edge like every month. And then one guy goes, "Dan, you got to see this." And then, of course, there was a page inside, Winger Splits. And I was like, oh my, I was so disappointed for that. That ruined my day. Or week, I should say, or whatever. And there was and then you kind of go back where Steve was saying that the new music was coming out, even though, do I call this a hair metal album? No, but they're a hair metal band. But even if bands tried to adapt to what was coming new, was failing, they couldn't get gigs. They were getting ridiculed on TV by Beavis and Butthead and Metallica. It was a bad time. And some of my friends are like, "Well, Dan, come on, get over it. This is hardly news or whatever." I'm like, "You didn't live through this one. I lived through it." And I remember going to work, opening up the magazine. I'm like, "Oh my God, Winger just split," and that's one of my top bands. And yeah, I wish. And when Steve said, I made every band started doing like sounding the same, there was still possibility of coexisting. But what actually I learned about this coexisting was actually very difficult, because Winger could not even get gigs, not just playing their songs on the radio or TV. They had a hard time getting gigs because the hair metal thing was just going that down. Now, whether this album should have been bigger or not, that's not the issue. It's just like out of nowhere, you're like one day you're not king of the charts, but and the next day you're just like I don't know. I don't know how to explain it there, but just that day I was extremely disappointed, just learning. And I had to go, well, being a big fan of Winger, I went and bought the solo albums that he did, which were good for what they are. But was it Winger? Not even close. Like I bought them just so I can get something else to buy. But anyway, my first pick would be the ridiculousness of Winger at the time. And when he split, I guess they just had enough. And he goes, "Yeah, it's time for us to split." And there you go. So that was my number one pick right there. All right, Mr. Keith, what do you got for number 2?
Okay, so this one is a band that put out a release, and it was a big disappointment for me, but for the band it wasn't. It was successful. So a huge album that came out in 1987 was, of course, this one, Hysteria. 12 times platinum, selling over 30 million copies worldwide to date. But its follow-up, Adrenalize, came out in 1992, and it's like it was a massive disappointment for me. probably not for the band, as it sold over 8 million copies. So that's not a, you know, total bargain bin thing, but a lot less than the 30 million. So Hysteria was huge for me, and it was like it was heard everywhere. You couldn't escape it. You heard everywhere, and just part of the soundtrack of that time. So expectations were huge for Adrenalize coming out. And when the video came out for Let's Get Rocked, came out, and I remember watching it and I remember thinking, God, this is goddamn awful. And so was the song. You know, even at 23, that age I was at the time, I thought the lyrics were just like subpar from some of the other albums. And when they say, I suppose the rock's out of the question, it's like, oh my God, I cringed. Yeah, I just cringed inside. It was just so yuck. And, you know, and make love like a man. I was like, what?
That song, Make Love Like a Man, is where I was like, okay, I'm done. Like, I didn't mind Let's Get Rocked, but Make Love Like a Man, I'm like, what is this? Anyway, go on, sorry.
Yeah, so re-listening to it, I think there's a couple of okay tracks, and I like that Tear It Down, that was okay. But just everyone who was talking up Hysteria and that I knew, Adrenalize just came and went, and nobody seemed to care one way or another. You had this massive, huge, successful album, and sort of that just came and went, and it was just, you know, disappointing. Massive disappointment at the time. But it's talking ancient history. You know, I've had more disappointments than that in my life, but we're just talking about music. So, you know.
When it came out, though, I did like Hysteria. I just see, as opposed to the Motley Crue one, the Hysteria one did not age well sonically, while the Motley Crue one did. But I side one, I'm okay if I never hear that side ever again. But
I sort of knew what the problem was because, of course, you had a death of one of the main members in the band. But I only found out years later about that, and you know, so at the time I was just thinking, no, this isn't what I wanted.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely right. Tear It Down's the only decent song on it, or the best song on it, and yet that was actually recorded during the Hysteria sessions. It's a B-side you can get it as a B-side from one of the
That's a great song, yeah.
And it's a good song, but then the rest is just like, and like you, Keith, and you know, this is like, I don't think about this now. I was thinking about it at the time. Like it was cringy, like in 1992. You know,
I know.
like this is so that's not good. You know, because there's a lot of stuff that, you know, coming out. You go, yeah, that's just the way it is. But it's like, oh no, in 1992, even those kind of bands were like starting to get a little bit more mature with their lyrics and stuff, eh? And that was just, yeah.
Was it right after Adrenalize that Slang came out, or was there one in between?
It's right
I
after.
jumped off, so
It's right after.
It was right after Adrenalize Slang came out? Okay. Makes sense.
There was Retroactive, which is like their B-sides and stuff thing that came out. Yeah.
No, I remember Adrenalize. I mean, as cringy as Let's Get Rocked, I still did enjoy it. But me was when Make Love Like a Man, I was like, what? What is this? Whatever. Anyway.
I'm sure if they played it now, people would just go nuts. You know, playing Let's Get Rocked at the concert, you know.
I know
on their set list, I don't know.
Adrenalize, though, I Want to Touch You, that song that's on Adrenalize, right, was actually filmed here. Not in my house there, but in the arena when they came.
Def Leppard didn't come to your house, Dan?
Oh, yeah, no. No, but it was actually, if you want to, the video for I Want to Touch You is actually filmed in Ottawa. I wasn't there for that because I didn't care for Def Leppard at the time. So, all right, Mr. Kevin.
So, speaking of Def Leppard,
sorry.
I actually was okay with Adrenalize. That was when Steve Clark had died, and they didn't replace him for that album. They just went with Phil Collin and whoever, whoever was in the band. So that was okay. But the next album, Slang. Vivian Campbell is the worst thing that ever happened to Def Leppard. I don't know. I mean, I liked him before that. He did that River Dogs band. That was Their first album was great.
And Dio.
He was in Dio. I think he was in Whitesnake for a little bit or something. I don't know. But I liked what I had heard from him. And once he got into Def Leppard, they became the, like, kind of like what Bon Jovi did, where they just became this soft, adult contemporary music sort of stuff. And it was weak. But this album, I don't know what they were thinking. It was like they just took any random idea that they might have had and tried it and said, okay, that's good enough, when it wasn't good enough. I don't think there's any hit song on this one. But they've never been the same since this came out. And I do believe that's because Steve Clark was, the guitar player that kind of, I think, was probably controlling how everything sounded, because, he was the driving force of Def Leppard, I think, for, the first 6 albums or so. And then once he passed away, that was it, So don't listen to this ever.
Say that Steve Clark is like the Chris DeGarmo of.
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah. Because unless you want to go back to the first guitar player, that Pete guy that we talked about the last time,
Willis.
Pete Willis. But no, yeah, but he just was what made Def Leppard, big guitars kind of thing, and they lost it. And they were the only band that in my whole life that I ever said was my favorite band. And I kind of stopped having a favorite band once I realized there was way too many different styles of music to put, one above everybody else. But yeah, when this came out, I was just like, oh man, this is horrible. I tried listening to it earlier today and it was just like, oh.
Work It Out is on that, right?
Work It Out? I don't know what's
I think
on
that
this.
was the video or the.
That's a good song.
Hit.
Is it? Yeah, but I don't like it.
It's on.
Whatever's on it, I don't like it.
It's on Vault, if I remember correctly, right? Or one of the greatest hits. Man.
It might be. I don't know. I don't have I don't have Vault. I have a MP3s of it. I don't have that.
Don't bother getting Vault. It's not even worth it.
Yeah.
It's all. There's nothing special. All right, Mr. Steve.
All right. Well, Kevin mentioned this band actually, and it kind of follows on a little bit from the band he's just been talking about. So I'm going to talk about Bon Jovi. So I even did an episode on my channel once called "The Good, the Bad, and the Disappointing," because I find this band quite disappointing. So my first experience with this band was, of course, their massive selling, "Slippery When Wet." That was huge. Everyone knows that album, and it really kind of got me into hard rock music. And then I was really surprised when I went to the music shop and saw, oh, what, they've got a new album. I thought it was a new album, and then oh no, it's one of their older albums. So I got that, and I thought it was different to Slippery, but still really good. And then this one as well, really good. So I had their first 3 albums, and I was playing them all the time, loved it. This is 1986, 87 sort of thing. But and then they put out New Jersey, which for me, I didn't like as much. It's a more mature, I think they're going for a more mature sound here. I don't know, for me, I wanted them to basically do Slippery When Wet again. Some people do think it does still sound a lot like Slippery When Wet. It's not too far off. It's good. And even on this one, where some people might think they get a little bit alternative rock, but it's, for the most part, I really like this album. There's some good songs on here. Keep the Faith. If I Was Your Mother, it might be one of their heaviest songs they've ever done. There's some good songs on here, so still good. But this is where it gets disappointing. So I'm really excited. But granted, it's 1995, I think, when this comes out. I'm really excited to hear this album these days. And they've done a few singles which are like ballads, but I always kind of expect, oh, yeah, Bon Jovi, they're going to release a few ballads. That's, that's for the mainstream. But there'll be some good rockers on here. And then you put it on, and hey God, again, probably one of Bon Jovi's heaviest songs. Really good song. Sounds a little bit like The Cult, but really good. I love that song. And then everything else after that is just like a ballad or mid-tempo, but really, it never really cranks up again after that one song. And there's how many songs on here? 14, 15 songs? I don't know. This is in the CD age too, right, where they're putting out lots of songs. I reluctantly got this because I do have a bit of a love for Bon Jovi, and I do like Hey God. So I got this, but I was a bit disappointed. And then it seemed like maybe because the '90s, even for Bon Jovi, was a little tough, and they kind of went away for a little bit. But then they actually had a hit, right, with "It's My Life," which I quite liked. I thought this is going back to a bit of a sort of their sort of '80s kind of sound, but with a more modern production and everything. It was okay. I liked that song. They crushed the rest of their songs on the album, though I didn't think were that great. Um, and so I was a bit unsure about what the next one was going to be like. But I'd heard that Bounce was actually going to be a little bit heavy. They're going to rock out a little bit. And so I really like this album. So this is really good. So they're kind of like, okay, I'm back on the Bon Jovi train now. But then after the Bounce, unfortunately, there's the one after Bounce. You can see that it's not quite as good, but there's still a couple reasonable, hard rockers on there. But they have a hit on that next album. It's Have a Nice Day, I think it's called. They have a hit which is like a country kind of a song. And Bon Jovi's kind of always been a bit like, oh, we've had a hit with that, so let's just go for that. And so the next album after that's just called, I think it's called Lost Highway or something like that. And it's almost like a country rock kind of album. And I thought, okay, I didn't even bother really with that. But I mean, I listened to it and thought, yeah, it's not my thing. I thought maybe this is just a one-off. But then after that, it's just been continuously like, oh yeah. So I've got to the point now where I'm not disappointed because you're not disappointed when you don't expect something to be good.
No.
But initially, it was disappointing because I was like, I was hoping this was going to be a hard rock album, and it's just a pop rock album. But now they just do pop rock, and some people like it, but I don't. Yeah.
I saw the tour for Have a Nice Day, actually.
Oh yeah.
And I got into an argument with my friend's friend about the style of music being more safe as opposed to being, and I was like, anyway, I ended that argument really quick. I'm like, I'm not going there, but I agree with you.
I mean, in concert, they probably still play a lot of the songs I like, but album-wise, no.
Yeah, I pretty much agree too on that. I do like "It's My Life." I like that song, but after I didn't really like "Keep the Faith" that much, and then after that, I didn't really like much of anything. The last album that they did, it was better than I thought it was going to be, but it still wasn't great. It wasn't the old, Bon Jovi.
Yeah.
I quite liked it.
But it was, surprising that it wasn't as terrible as I thought it was going to be. So.
Apparently they're planning a tour, I heard.
Maybe they'll come to your house.
They're coming to my house, yeah, right. Well, you're all invited. Not the viewers, you three, I guess.
VIP passes for us. Yeah.
All right. I agree with you there for that one, Steve.
Well, if they're touring again, I'm going to be interested to hear how John Bon Jovi sounds, because I know he's I know supposedly he's had some surgery that's helped his vocals, but I'm not sure about that. Anyway, let's see.
All right. Okay, my second one here this was mid-90s, and I used to love this band. If you actually just received this album, if you follow me on Instagram, you probably know where I'm going with this one here, where I posted it today. But this album actually just got issued on vinyl for the first time ever. I was like, all right, I'll get it, just because you know me, I'm a completist. But this album is so shit. So 1993, I loved their last album. Then they came out with this piece of shit. Bullet Boys, Acid.
Never even heard of that one.
Okay, so you might. So that's the new album cover. Here you go. That's how the original cover looked like. And I remember ordering it from Paris Records in a magazine because they weren't selling this. So this version sounds better. It's remastered. It's still not great. But you go from Zaza, which I loved. I do love their first three albums. And this is just, it makes Shadow Life from Dawkins make like a genius work. It's... I don't. It's like Zaza. It's almost like Zaza had, let's say, $1 million budget, let's say, and then Acid Monkey had a $10 budget. It sounded that bad. And I remember us getting a sampler for Paris Records, which was the record company, and we heard the song Toy. I'm like, oh, that's heavy, but that's pretty good. That's the best song on the album, because the rest is just like, oh, and I got to show you. This was the picture inside the CD. I wish I still had the CD because it's worth a lot of money. This was the band. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You count 7 people there. And I was like, who the hell's in the band? Like, I don't even know who's who.
Right.
Now there's sorry, not here. There was this picture also in the so I guess that's Lonnie Vincent and Mark Torian. I don't even know who these two guys are, but like this picture, this picture is not even from anyway, yeah, that's the album, yeah, but this one here, I was like, who the hell are these 7 people? It sounds like there's 3 people playing on this. It's so bad. But yeah, I used to love Bullet Boys, and then I probably was the only one that I knew that actually bought as Acid Monkey. And I was just like, I was going to my friend's tab, like, this has got to be the worst thing. It made Dawkins Shadow Life look like a piece of genius, and Warrant Belly to Belly even. I'll probably put them equal, but yeah.
Okay, but how does it compare to Nitro?
Okay, well, you know what? Okay, good question. I listened to this one today, or was it yesterday when I got in the mail, and they remastered it and re something. Anyway, it sounds better than what I remember. I enjoyed it more than I back then. So I enjoy it more than Nitro big time. Nitro is, to me, is,
Okay, yeah, we don't want to go down there.
No.
Yeah, down that road. Nah.
he knows, Steve knows how to push my buttons there.
Yeah.
But yeah, Bullet Boys was one of my favorite bands at the time, and it's not often. It happened with 1 or 2 other bands where I just said, "See ya, I'm done," and that was one of them. When I heard Acid Monkey, I'm like, "What the hell is this?" It's bad grunge. The sound is awful. Like it sounds better on this new reissue. I'll give him that there, but it's still like, talk about a band not being like. At least Bon Jovi tried with, It's My Life, to try to sound again like these. The last 4 or 5 albums, they don't even sound anything like the Bullet Boys we know from the first 3 albums.
Well, didn't they
I
do
didn't
an album that was like industrial or something? Like sounding?
Which one?
I don't know which album it was, but didn't they do one that was industrial sounding? I saw a video for something, and it was like, "What in the hell is this?"
Okay, was that the
Freak Show?
If it was
No, it was much later.
it was like a couple of years ago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember you commenting on it, and it was bad. It was fuck you or something like that.
Something.
I have no idea where that's supposed to be. It's just a song that they released.
Maybe it's just a song, but I remember
It was
because there
just
was
a
a
song,
video.
yeah.
There was a video for whatever it was.
Yeah.
And it was horrible.
Yeah, it wasn't great. I remember that. I buy them. Like I said, I have a lot of crap records because I feel I feel empty when I'm missing one album from a certain band. I'm like that. I've always been like that. If I have one, I try to get them all. But yeah, Bullet Boys, it's just like my friends, like I told him, I said, "Oh, I got Acid Monkey and 10 Cent Billionaire on vinyl." He goes, "I thought you were done with those guys." I'm like, "Well, to a point."
Yeah,
think
I
they
pretty much
stopped.
have the first 2, and I don't have much. I don't think I have any after that. I don't even think I have Zaza.
See, to me, I like Zaza a lot. It's good. But again, to each his own there. But this is just shit. Like but this the remaster is actually a lot better than what came out in, I guess, 95 or whatever. It was like, again, I'm not kidding when I say it looks like they spent $10 on the recording and the artwork. It was just so bad. So anyway, that's my disappointment number 2. Mr. Keith, you got your last one here.
Yeah, I've got my last one.
All right.
My last one is Metallica. So a lot of those old arguments people get really bored with and things like that. So if you bear with me, I'm actually not talking about the usual. This is actually a recent disappointment I'm going to talk about. So I'm not going to talk about that came out in 1996. I'm not going to talk about Reload in 1997 when the band cut their hair and changed their style. So I call those Load and Reload albums. I call this one Come.
Sorry,
and I call
what?
the second one CUM. And I call the second one Blood because the photographer used bodily fluids under glass to take this picture for this. And this is Come. And the other one, of course, is Blood. So bodily fluids. I'm not going to talk about
Saint Anger.
Yeah. Which came out in 2003, has no guitar solos and the drums. I'm not going to talk about Lulu, the album they did.
I forgot about
Lou
that
Reed.
one. I forgot about that.
I think everybody
Yeah.
forgets about Lulu.
Yeah, we were all trying to, but it was up in that record store for like over $200 on vinyl, and no, pass. So my musical disappointment I will talk about is the bad luck I have with this band touring in New Zealand. So Steve knows too well how often we get bypassed when bands on their way to Australia that they don't bother to stop in and play here. So in 2019, they were going to play here, and I was on the fan club, and I even got the T-shirt for that tour. Here you go.
That's actually a cool shirt. I'm gonna give him that. That is actually very cool. I've never seen that.
And it's got the 2019 Australian and New Zealand thing there. And so I was dead set to go see them. I was happy that we've got a band that's coming here, a big band. And of course, it didn't happen. Lars had to go back to rehab. He had a bit of a lapse. So we didn't see them here. And then just recently, I was amped up because I've never seen Metallica. I'd like to see them. They're supposed to be here. They're coming here in November this year. So I was home by myself. I got my credit card out, ready to go. I waited in the queue, and with Ticket, it runs down the numbers of you are so in the queue. I think I was about 500, and I'm going down. It goes down pretty quick. So it got to me, and I thought, oh, I've got it. I've got 4 seats, pretty good seats. I'll take the whole family and that. And then when it got to put in my credit card, I don't know what happened. I think they might be only accepting a certain credit card or something. It would not take my credit card, whatever I did. And in the field, it says pick your. So I tried, and then I got so frustrated. You probably heard me swearing from bloody Canada about this. So
I remember that day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, you told me about that.
So just massive disappointment. That's 2 for 2. And I'm just hoping now they might do a second concert, and I might be able to go to that one. So that's my last disappointment.
I think chances are big that are they going to New Zealand or Australia?
They're coming here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. There could be.
I think they've been here for a big day out as well, or something like that. I don't know what I was doing then. I might have been overseas, but
wow.
Yeah.
That New Zealand sounds a lot like New Orleans with the bands passing over, because that happens a lot here where they'll go to Houston and Atlanta, and we're in the middle, and they just skip us.
Same here, my friend.
Yeah.
Montreal, Toronto, and Ottawa is always like, come on.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess they think people will go to Houston to see a big band, but it's like an 8-hour drive. I'm not doing that. And I don't know how far it is to Atlanta, but it's got to be at least 8 hours there too. But that happened. But I saw them twice on the Black Album tour. They came around twice. So
So I saw them 4 times. Sorry,
Oh.
Keith. And I don't even like them. I saw the Black Album. Which one has King Nothing? Is it Reload?
That's loaded.
Have a look.
Load.
It's on, this one, the one I showed you.
So I
Yeah.
saw that, the one where the stage catches on fire. That was really good. Death Magnetic and some other one there. Anyway, good shows, but yeah, I just go there for the shows. Sorry, Keith. But I remember you told me that. I think when we did the Angels episode, yeah.
Well, I'm trying to take my kids to see all these classic bands because they might be into them later, and they'll say, "Oh,
Yeah,
I really wish
exactly.
I'd gone to see AC/DC. I really wish I'd gone to see Dad. Why didn't you take us?" So I've taken them to Maiden. Well, I took one of my sons to Maiden, so I'm working my way through all those.
Good.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Good choice, Mr. Kevin.
So, as far as albums go, this is probably the biggest disappointment of anything ever in my life. And I know Dan doesn't really like this band anyway, so he's probably going to be excited.
I'll be cheering you on. Yeah.
But depending on how you look at it, we waited either 15 or 17 years for this to be put out. We heard about it forever, and it never happened. And then one day, it just decided, hey, we're putting this out. And it was Guns N' Roses,
I knew that
Chinese Democracy.
Yeah, that's a good choice. Yeah.
I left work like at 10 o'clock. I took my lunch break and said, I'm going to lunch early. And everybody looked at me like I was crazy or something. I went to the, I think it was Best Buy or something. Went in there, got it the first day it was available. Went back to work, had my little CD player sitting at my desk, and I was pissed off the whole day because it was terrible. I couldn't stand it. I don't know why, but it just wasn't anything like Guns N' Roses to me. And again, this is an album that I keep seeing videos pop up where people say, this is the best Guns N' Roses album out there. And I'm like, what? I was like, that's not even the best, album of the year or whatever. It was, I think it's terrible. I can't listen to it. I try every once in a while. I've probably listened to the whole thing less than 10 times in my life because every time I put it on, it just makes me mad. It's like, I don't like it. And then they haven't put anything out since. And we've had many versions of Guns N' Roses, with all these different members, and then original members are supposed to get back. But I think they put out 1 or 2 singles maybe in the last probably 15, 20 years, however long it's been since the last one. 2008 this came out, so however long that's been.
There was something about school, like last year or the year before.
Yeah. That single wasn't that great either.
What
But
was the name, Steve?
Hard School.
Hard School, yeah.
Hard School, that's what it was. Yeah. But I don't know. It angers me. This album I don't like it. And I wouldn't say I was the biggest Guns N' Roses fan, but I really liked them, and I had everything they put out. But I don't know. So, and I really don't know if they should ever put anything out again anyway. Because they're kind of like the Motley Crue thing where he can't really sing anymore. And just like Vince Neil, his voice is kind of blown out. So I don't know.
Motley Crue keep putting stuff out, so you never know.
Right. But you've heard that last single, so. But anyway.
All right.
So now because I had to talk about that album.
Good choice. I will not disagree with you. I think I saw. No, my sister saw that tour, or did I see that tour? I think I did see that tour also, but the second leg of it.
Yeah. Well, I could have bought it on vinyl pretty cheap too, and I didn't. And I've heard that it's like really expensive for some reason. So I don't know.
All right, Mr. Steve, what do you got for your last one?
Yeah, so my last one, I don't want to keep talking about this. I feel like I've been talking about this a little bit recently, but this disappointment was also on my wishes show that I did with Dan. And my wish was that Winger would tour New Zealand, because one of my big disappointments is they announced a tour that were going to come to New Zealand. Not only were they going to come to New Zealand, they were going to play in Wellington. So we're going to play in Wellington where I live. So I didn't even have to travel far.
Yeah.
And then, unfortunately, I had a work commitment on that night that I couldn't get out of. I was like, oh no, this is when Winger's playing. I had to do this work thing. So yeah, so I couldn't go to the Wellington show. But the thing was, it's okay because they were going to play in Auckland, and I'm kind of used to the fact that there's a band I really want to see. Okay, I'm going to have to travel up to Auckland, which is, like Kevin was talking, it's about 8-hour drive sort of thing to, Houston was it? But yeah, for Auckland's the same. It's about an 8-hour drive, but you get on a plane too, it's only an hour. So I was thinking, well, yeah, I could do that. In fact, I think I will do that or make a big trip of it and talk to the family that were going to come up with me. And yeah, we're going to make it work. I'm going to see Winger because I'm first of all, I'm really surprised that they're even touring in New Zealand. But if they are, I want to make sure I'm there. Never seen them before. And, they just released 7, which, I've been really enjoying. Maybe they hadn't actually released it, but they were about to release it anyway. But enjoying the singles, so, and I really like Winger. So especially their first, 3 albums. So, yeah, so really disappointing then when I find out that the tour has been cancelled, and they were going to tour Australia as well, but yeah, cancelled. So surprise, surprise, they've now announced that, and I didn't think this would happen. They are going to tour Australia, but for some reason they've forgotten New Zealand.
Yeah, sounds familiar.
But that's almost.
I'll get on
and
that.
that could be another disappointment.
I'll get on that.
So yeah. Keith thinks we should start. Well, I don't know if he's going to help me with this, but maybe he's just suggested that I do it. But that I started a what do you call it when you try and get a band to come to your country, a petition or something?
Media campaign.
Yeah, to get the band to add New Zealand to the to their itinerary. So they're playing everywhere too in Australia, like Adelaide, Sydney, Melbourne,
heaps of places.
5 towns.
Yeah, they're playing everywhere. Just like it's pretty much the same. Just a little trip, over to Auckland. I don't mind if it's Auckland. Like I said, I'm willing to travel up there. So I mean, I was looking at the dates. And I was thinking, well, Australia, it's not too far. You can have a little holiday trip over there. But I mean, I did just go there last year, about this time last year. So yeah, I don't know. I don't really want to spend that much money and all that time. I mean, I do. I am pretty interested in seeing them, but I don't know if I'd be that committed. So there we go. So that was my disappointment. Winger cancelling. Maybe there's still hope. Maybe my wish is going to come true, Dan. But at the moment, it hasn't quite happened.
I still remember that day, and I was like, "Oh my God, how do I break this to Steve?" I felt so bad for you.
I sent him a text.
Oh my God!
Yeah. But it could be that actual lineup. They're saying, "Oh, this is the last time we're going to be playing that lineup." So it sort of adds that extra.
The current
Australian. But I would have known that anyway. I know that this is the last chance. I know that. I mean, yeah.
I hope, man. I'll talk to Kip for you.
Yeah.
Is he coming over later?
Yeah.
To be honest with you, though, this is a completely different subject. When bands say this is the last, it's no, you can't really believe that these days.
Yeah,
like Ozzy's about to do Black Sabbath's about to do.
I saw that.
Wasn't the end? Obviously not.
Well, I saw that too, and that's kind of weird because it's billed as Black Sabbath and Ozzy, so he's going to do his own show and a Black Sabbath show.
I don't think so. Yeah.
I don't
think. There's no way.
he can't walk, and he said it's probably even going to be lip sync.
Oh, that would not be worth seeing.
But I know that Ghost is going to introduce the new Papa there, that Papa 5 there, so there's a whole big thing about it. But yeah, I read that. I was like, really? But okay.
I think he wanted the original lineup to just do one more show. You got Bill on the drum there. Get the original guys back, and then he's happy, and then he can
Yeah.
Walk off to the sunset.
Let's see Bill Ward back, but yeah,
we'll see. All right, my last one here. I will Okay, you know what? I'll skip this one. I'll put in my honorables. I'm gonna go when this band was announced. It's a super group, and okay, disappointment is a big word, but I was very like underwhelmed when this came out. I was like, okay, that's the best that these four guys can do. So I'm gonna go with Chicken Foot. It's good, but you got Sammy, you got Joe Satriani, you got the guy from Red Hot Chili Peppers. I forget his name.
Flea?
Not Flea,
The guitar player?
the drummer, the guy who
the
Ed
drummer.
Smith.
Right.
Chad
Ted
something.
Smith.
Chad
Chad
Smith, yeah.
Smith, yeah, and Michael Anthony, and I got the two albums, and even the second one is about as good as this one. It's not bad, okay, by any means. This is not bad music, but it's just like, really, this is the best that you guys can come up with all this talent. Like I said, Sammy, Michael Anthony, Joe Satriani, and Chad Smith. I guess they're not the main songwriters in their other bands. I don't know, but you guys like this one here? Like, have you heard it?
I don't know
Never
anything
heard
about Chicken Foot except the name.
Because they had 4 videos. Soap on a Rope, Sexy Little Thing. Oh yeah, is played in arenas here.
It was a bit of a hit, though, wasn't it? Which is a bit of a surprise.
It was a minor hit.
Minor hit, yeah. Like went gold, I think.
But again, you're just like, maybe I was expecting, Van Halen quality writing, or I mean, Joe Satriani, you love him, or like a lot of people say he can't write a song, and I'm starting to believe that. With his solo career, it's just like the same thing after the other there. I don't know. I like it, but it was just like there's definitely something missing with this band. And don't want to just pick on Chicken Foot. Like, there's a lot of these super groups where you're expecting, oh my god, this is going to be great, and then you're like, that's it. That's how I kind of felt about this one here. So good, but like nowhere near great. There was no wow moment. You're like, wow, that song was cool. Maybe a couple on the second one there, but I was a little bit disappointed when this came out, just because the hype was there, and when it came out, I was just like, it's okay. But I was expecting a lot more. Maybe, again, like I told in the last episode, maybe being a good musician does not necessarily make you a good songwriter also. But
what kind of music is it? Is it like hard rock or?
think of it's like, think of Van Halen. Like, think of it's like that, but the songs aren't as like, I'll use, like, say, Pound Cake or Panama. You don't have any songs of that quality, singles. It's the writing's a little bit lazy. Like I said, I don't think it's bad. I just think it's, with the talent involved in that band, this should have been way much better, way much better. So that I was a little bit disappointed when that came out. So I'll put Chicken Foot, the group itself. I'd see it live. I'd buy anything that they did, but it's just it was there, but I was expecting them to be there, So anyway, that's my third one there. Any honorables?
No, I didn't do any.
I mean, I could probably
just
think
one,
of it.
but
Hey, go ahead, Keith.
just one, and it's already been mentioned. Just Guns N' Roses. I would have liked to see more in their discography over the years than what the solid. Where they get their act together and get in one room as a band, and there hasn't been much of that. That's what's sort of disappointing.
Technically, they only have 4 albums, and if you count Use Your Illusion 1 and 2, right?
Well, there's 5 because they did a covers album, the Spaghetti Incident.
Spaghetti, yeah.
And it's a covers album, but they consider it, an official album, so and that one was actually pretty good, but waiting for this mess.
Mm.
I just, so
Yeah. Could have done better, but that costs like millions and millions to even get that.
Yeah. And
sent Geffen into bankruptcy.
they gave Axl Rose a little bit too much power on that, and they should have just cut him off.
Well, it's just him with a bunch of other people, right?
Yeah, well, it was recorded like over and over. They kept recording songs, and they couldn't get it right. And it's like, how can you not get it right? I mean,
It was 14 years, I think, yeah?
It came out in 2006 or 2008. Spaghetti Incident came out in 1993, and Use Your Illusions came out in 91. So depending on how you want to look at it, 17 or 15 years.
Is it the song Chinese Democracy? When it came out, I was like, wait a minute, I've heard that before. I call it Living After Midnight, but it's the same.
Oh, I don't know. Like I said, I can't listen to it. I don't like anything on there, so I couldn't tell you what anyone was. Because I've had it since the first day, but I've probably listened to it 10 times through all the way through in my whole, since it's been out. So just can't do it.
All right, Steve, you got anything?
No, I was just going to say that I think sometimes it's I could probably think of a few examples, but it's a bit disappointing, and you understand a band can grow and change a little bit. But when a band just does like a massive change of sound, and especially if you like their previous album, there's been a few occasions like that where it's like, well, this is not the same band.
Acid really. Monkey.
Exactly. There's lots of examples, and sometimes, or even Motley Crue, you could argue that's self-titled, right? I mean, it's not a massive, but it is quite a shift in sound. Of course, they've got different vocalist as well, but I think sometimes I understand bands change and evolve, but when they just suddenly change their sound, or you feel like they've changed their sound just to fit in with the times as well, then it seems like it's not only like that wasn't the sound I was into, you're just kind of selling out a little bit. You're just going, oh, this is the trendy sound, so we're going to put out kind of like what Bon Jovi did with their Lost Highway. It's like, oh, well, we had a hit with a country song, and country songs are kind of popular, we're going to put out a whole album of that. So and I guess too, just Guns N' Roses kind of got me thinking this, the lack of albums by Van Halen since 19 whenever Balance, since Balance basically is, I mean, obviously we had the 3 album, but a different kind of truth. I mean, Eddie was around for quite 20 odd years after Balance, but only 2 albums. It's a bit disappointing.
Well, and the thing about that is like a lot of those bands that were super popular, they may never reach those levels again, but even if they put out something, they would sell more than everybody else is selling, basically, unless you're a superstar. It seems like they quit because it's not enough, Yeah,
it's interesting that, isn't it? Because like you say, they must be really I know probably Eddie Van Halen was really fussy about what he put out, and he wanted it to be really good, but like you say, they could have just put it half, 50% effort was still going to sell probably goldly.
But there's also the part where you're growing. Van Halen's been growing from the first one till Balance, let's say. Then 3 came out. They were just trying to prove a point. After that, they didn't really need.
Right.
No, and I mean, the same thing's happened with AC/DC as well, really, in a way, hasn't it? Since the mid-90s, you get an album every 6-7 years sort of thing, and it's a bit, I don't know.
AC/DC has been more productive than Van Halen.
Yeah, they have,
Unfortunately.
Just reading the Sammy Hagar's autobiography, and it's quite an interesting tell-all about Eddie. That's why the family doesn't like it. And while in the past Eddie could just fire off an awesome guitar solo without much effort, he said in the book that even doing a little bit of guitar, he was just so slow, and it just took him a lot more because he's really non-functional, is basically what he said. So that might have something to do with it, I don't know. But just that's a really interesting read. That read what
he goes pretty hard on Eddie in that book.
He's pretty harsh. He doesn't Yeah.
But that was when Eddie was still alive. He wrote that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Mm.
I'll just show you my.
And at his house, he pulled up all the floorboards or something, and then there's guitar leads all over the place, and the place was like a mess, and bottles everywhere, and yeah,
Unfortunate. I'll just go through my really
great talent.
quick ones here. When Sammy left Van Halen, I was very disappointed with that one. Same thing with Acid Monkey. Very disappointed when this thing came out.
What is that cover? That's
Exactly. Well,
terrible cover.
I loved the album before that, and then this came out. I was like, what the hell is this? And Steve may not like me for this one here, but I'm going to go with Eldorado. I loved Kill Fuck Die. And then this thing came out. I was like, okay.
No, I'm with you on that one. I don't. Everything sounds like Blind and Tequila.
Except for Damnation Angels, which is different. Everything else is Blind in Texas.
Yeah.
Times 9. Like every song is a riff of Blind in Texas, but Desolation Angel is good. That's why I kind of stopped with Wasp right there, and I came back again there. So, all right. Anything else to add, guys?
Can I do a plug?
Go ahead.
Okay. I'm just running a competition on my chat. All right.
I'm joking. Go ahead.
I'm just doing a competition on my channel that is Attack from Down Under. So if you want to win free stuff, check that out.
He's got some good stuff on his for free stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even this guy is going to enter. So, all right then. Anything else we want to add? No other plugs? All right. Well, I would like to thank Keith from Attack from Down Under, Kevin from Sonic Boom TV, and Steve from Rock and Metal Invasion for joining us or joining me today for this. And write us in the comments if you have some musical disappointments that you'd like to share with us here. And on that note, I'd like to thank you guys for watching, subscribing, sharing, and doing whatever. And we shall see you guys next episode. Take care. Bye-bye.